Okay, we're back to looking for a game. This is a sandbagging account. I am a UK 6 Dan. My name is Daniel Hu, but this account is at 3 Dan, so I will be describing my thoughts on the moves. This is a 4-4, it's slightly more influence oriented. My opponent has played a 3-3. I would like to mirror that, just for fun. Normally you don't approach the 3-3 immediately, because it's already alive, so you have a disadvantage in any fight. You protect the 4-4 point because your 4-4 stone can be a weak group if white invades at the 3-3. In fact, this early on in the game I would expect the play to still revolve around this area because it's unusually big. Okay, that's certainly starting to build an area in the upper left. The simple way to reduce would be to play the 4-4 immediately, especially as this stone is low. It's also tempting to reinforce the upper right, but I don't think there's a particularly good move. If this move was a bit closer, I might just automatically respond. The more complicated move would be to play further away. I think the AI have popularized this sort of move, though it might be in a different position. The idea is to just play a simple one space extension next. Let's just try this out. I don't really know what happens. I suppose I'm thinking that if white plays around here, I can still shoulder hit later. And I'm also anticipating that white will be the one to get this point, which means that I won't be reducing from the upper right. Instead, I may well want the group in the center, leaning on this stone. If white doesn't do anything, then I have to start trying to attack and trying to get the upper right in center, or trying to get... Well, now that there's another stone here, it might be useful to play around here as a forcing move. Of course, for now the priority is to settle this group. Still, I find it quite difficult to attack this stone, so I think it's still interesting to play around here. I'm playing very fancy moves, if I really go ahead with this. The problem is that I feel that settling this group immediately is a little bit slow. And I'm inclined to try to play more actively. Now, the shoulder hit would be a bit of shape here, but I'm slightly skeptical that it's sufficiently connected with my other stone. So I'm looking at this sort of move. Another idea would just be to connect up all my stones, and I think that's quite reasonable. I don't think I dare to block here because there's an extra supporting white stone. There's too many supporting white stones. But, I mean, it's still something to think about. Anyway, the obvious move is just to continue. If white continues pushing, then I think I probably should be blocking. So the idea here is just, I still have a big follow-up with the tiger mouth, and white is very low on the second line. Now, in this way, white is all connected. I still maybe have a forcing move here, but it's not strictly speaking forcing. I'm quite surprised that white didn't extend to leave a cut, or maybe Takasumi is probably the best move. But it's just all very low. I might be able to make some territory by playing like this later, but it's not clear what shape I should choose. I might turn, so I should just defend this corner. So this move, I mean, it's a little bit far from the corner, but it's just the key point to prevent white from making an eye too easily. Okay, so white can push in order to get some shape, but it still takes some time for white to actually be attacking my shape, I think. So I don't need to worry about that right now. I also don't see a good move for me to play. Like if I play here, then my shape isn't connected. If I was to play a move, then I would play from the center, but once again, that's not really connected. So I would play this sort of move. But at the moment, I don't see, it doesn't seem necessary. Okay, so because there's a weak white group here, I would like to develop the lower side. I'm fairly skeptical that white has any particular moyo. The most white can do is try to attack this group a little bit. Even that's not that easy. Okay, white has just ignored this, so it's certainly time for me to try to attack a little bit. Okay, I think this is the standard move. The shoulder hit is possible, but it's a little bit slack here. I'm not so determined to get out. The correct order is to push first, rather than to play underneath. When you play underneath, you're just asking white to defend immediately, but after white is defended, white is completely connected. If you push up first, then it gets awkward because of the problem here. So if white goes up, then you turn, and then there's a bit of a problem. Well, I think in this shape, black is pretty happy. White's problem is that the corner isn't comfortable. I expected white to extend just now. after which I think I would have to descend. But then maybe White thought that the corner wasn't alive enough, which is probably true. I think the tiger mouth was better than the solid connection. Though I think either way White is alive, so it's not really a big deal. I think I have the ladder, don't I? I know White is saying that White has this move in center, but I think if I have the ladder, then yeah, I do have the ladder. It just squeezes past the stone. Let me just double check. So it goes into the star point from below. So it goes into this star point from below. Yeah, so I have the ladder. So if White... Okay. If White does this, then I don't have the ladder. But the problem is that White is now very heavy. Okay. If White plays here, I think I can... Oh no, so I think White can't do that. Now, the corner... To be honest, I think White's corner is more healthy than I expected. So it's important that I just defend my own shape in that case. I'm still leaving a problem in my shape at this attachment. I'm not sure if White's going to pursue me or not. If White pulls the stone out, then I think I should just defend solidly. Because I'm always going to have to defend it. Or I could push several times. I can only push once, and then I have to defend. Otherwise I get cut immediately. I think that's right. Yeah, so I just have to defend immediately. But my feeling is that White should still play around it. Okay, keeping in mind that I have this move as a forcing move, do I have a smart tactic here? I think I should just defend solidly. White has to be a little bit careful not to let me get too many moves here, otherwise I think I have the wedge. And then there's still some shortage of liberties. So for now it's certainly fine. If White doesn't do anything, then I just take these 2 stones. But if White saves these 2 stones, I don't think it's a good result for White. So I'm not sure what I would do as White. I think it's not a bad idea to try to attack this group. I mean, the shape point is probably to jump here. Bearing in mind that White pushing here is almost forcing me to make the tiger mouth, which is definitely a bad shape. Also bear in mind that I might be able to Hane. This is a shape point, though I have a feeling that I might be playing a bit too aggressively with this move. The reason I dare to play like this is because I think that this white group is not alive, and I have several stones here already, and I can turn here, and it's pretty much forcing. I can get a lot of moves in the center. I guess white can't afford to respond to be honest. Okay, I mean, my shape isn't perfect at all. I think I've messed up. If white can just capture like this, then I have messed up. If white can't capture me with the next move, then I think I'm doing okay. Well, I admit that I have gotten myself into trouble. I think I'm going to have to sacrifice this group. I mean, if I connect... I guess connecting is not out of the question. It's still very bad shape though, so I'm reluctant to play it. Problem is, connecting is not as bad of a shape as I thought it was initially. But just because it's not as bad as I thought it was doesn't mean it's good. Okay. Whatever happens, one of my groups is probably going to die. I just have to hope that it's not both groups. Oh, I completely misread this. I don't actually have that ladder, do I? I mean, given that I don't have that ladder, I think I have to push here. It's a very, very ugly move, I'm afraid. I can't even cut directly because then this group will just die. Okay, so I Atari, this whole sequence was in order to allow me to cut. Now there's no ladder because these stones have a shortage of liberties. What I am fortunate about is that white can't ladder this stone, and black can also extend here in Sente. To me, this means that the probability of me being able to capture one of these groups is very high. So the shape point would be to turn. There's no point cutting, especially as this group isn't alive. At the current point, I think if I Atari, then it's not easy for white to save these stones. I think I can Atari here. Reason being that I can be satisfied just to capture these stones. You know, I'm not completely sure that I can be satisfied because white's outside is very, very solid. But my problem is that if I don't Atari, then I won't have the chance to Atari in the future. Okay, no choice. I have to pay a tax for my bad moves earlier, so this is the tax that I will pay. I admit that this game is difficult. I believe that I have a follow-up of this Kasumi. But I have to admit that I don't seem to have many co-threats. So it's not easy. Okay, I think my opponent has just made some very questionable moves. Okay, white can play here right now, and it's an awkward position for me. I can make white's shape very, very bad, but I don't know if that's sufficient to win the capturing race. I'm sorry that this has turned into such a complicated shape. So I'm defending my cutting point, and this group has a lot of liberties. This group has some liberties. Now, if I Kasumi here, then what? Then I don't believe that my opponent can get out of this. And my opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties, I think. Does that mean I've won? You know, initially I was looking at this move, because that would be the move to get out. But when you're capturing stones, you have to play it very accurately. You know, I have a feeling that this doesn't actually work for me. But even if it doesn't work, because the problem is that after the push and cut, my problem is that this stone doesn't have many liberties. I mean, I can still live because I think I have an eye if I play here. Yeah, good move to play the cut. Now, if I short the liberties, then I win the capture race. I buy 2 liberties. If I don't short the liberties, then black has 1, 2, 3, 4, and white has 5 liberties. So I should play here in order to save my stone. Okay, well, in that case it's game over. I've won. And sometimes it's very important which side you short the liberties from, because I can short them. Normally you don't want to short from your internal group, the one which is low on liberties, especially if there's an eye around, because not just because it will lose you liberties, but also if you accidentally die, then or you lose it in a co, then you lose less stones. So it's better to play from the outside. And in this case, there's a weakness on the outside. There's this cutting point. So I think this liberty is the most important liberty to fill. I mean, this liberty is important as well because these 2 stones are vulnerable. But my problem is that actually this entire black group in the center doesn't have many liberties. So I think this liberty is better. The next liberty I will fill is this one, because why? Because just because it asks white to add an extra stone, extra dead stone. So my feeling is that should gain me a point. Okay. This is not the sort of game I expected. I guess in the end I won by 2 liberties, so it wasn't as tight as I thought it was. I could afford to take this point. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the problem is that on the next move I can connect. Actually, even more strong is for me to pull the stone out. Just by playing here or something. No, I think actually just connecting and letting white live in the center and then jumping is good. Okay, I will just do a quick review and then I'll look for another game. That was a very intense game. So I think it's interesting for white to play in this corner still. So like just playing the shoulder hit is an idea. I suspect that the AI will tell you that approaching is the best move. After which black would like to build something by attacking. Maybe, or maybe kick and pincer. So there are these sorts of fighting variations. This gets very tricky. I think shoulder hit is the best move here. Now, I think the standard, simplest way to deal with this structure is just to shoulder hit. The reason I got a little bit worried about this shape was because I was nervous that white would do something like this and start attacking. But now that I look at it again, I think it's not actually very good for white. I mean, this whole structure is a bit low and is still a bit cramped. I could even just respond here, or maybe play the shoulder hit. I'm not sure exactly where. Probably just respond, and I can still attack this group a little bit, so I think that doesn't really have to worry about it just yet. Okay, I mean, I'm reviewing right now, so I guess not. So I was kind of thinking that white might play away around about now. Maybe on the left somewhere to split this shape. But I can appreciate that this is a very natural move. I mean, maybe it's good for me just to play him immediately. I suspect I think I was being a bit too fancy. Like, I don't know what white is going to do right now. This stone is pincered, and black has already built something here. I don't know how you attack this group and save this group at the same time. Because you want to build around here, but the shape looks a little bit strange. Another idea is just to play here and do the same thing, but then it kind of gets a little bit sealed in. Okay. This was a fancy move. My feeling is that white should be doing something around here in order to split the shape. After which, I don't really know what I'm doing with this group. Or maybe just white really wants to be able to shoulder hit this somehow. This looks very, very fancy. I was thinking about moves like this, but I was a bit scared about the push and cut, so I didn't. I mean, this is very solid and it seems fairly normal, but once again I suspect that there might be a stronger move. And so I was thinking about this. You know, now that I look at it, it does look like it's quite a strong move. Again, because the corner isn't alive, so white has to be very careful with the moves here. Maybe the attachment. Sure, it still seems like the shape went. No, it doesn't look easy for white to cut. Maybe I should have played like this. In the game, maybe my moves were a little bit soft, because this stone ends up getting misplaced. Though overall, I think the result is okay for me. I find it hard to accept turning here as white. And again, I think this is the move. Because, I mean, if this stone was here, then there would be a cutting point, but you can use the fact that there isn't a stone there. So, probably it's still proper for black to continue, after which white gets the critical point here. I think white might even be better in this variation, because black's shape does look a bit clumsy, even though white is very low. I think it almost looks like an empty triangle, right? It's like black has spent so many moves on this line of the board, and white has still got all of the territory. After this, I don't like this because there's still various agi. There's the Kasumi and there's this Kasumi. This pincer is just to prevent white from, say, playing around here. I think white's still going to play here. Or no, I think this is too small. White should probably do something over here. This shape is completely connected, so unless white is trying to attack this group, this isn't a great shape. Yeah, now that I look at this move, it's not really very good. I think it's just too early. You might be better off just jumping. Or playing on the lower side. I don't know, something like this. Okay, so I had the chance to develop the lower side. I kind of feel like I might owe a move on the left. It seemed okay for now. What I expected was this variation, and then white does something on the lower side. It's a little bit awkward because there's already a white group here, so you don't want to damage that. So you just want to live locally and make a simple sort of two-space that just lives immediately and still leaves some weakness in black's shape because you already have a weak group here. I think that's what I expected. I think this is a bad move because it's just very negative on territory. This, I mean, is consistent at least, but I think it's unnecessary. I mean, maybe you have to play there given that white has played the previous move. So now white has spent several moves and white is still not alive, but it's pretty much alive. White can Atari. The problem with living like this is that, for example, later you might be able to live like this, And it's still not yet an eye, but the corner is damaged. Whereas black has gotten the key point. So I was saying here, you shouldn't push because then white is connected. You should push up here, because then if white plays around here, you can play it like this. And your moves are successfully sealing white in. In the game, something similar happened. The normal move is to play here, and you might have this sort of variation. And then you block. That looks a bit too good. I don't know if there's a way to cut this. If you play here immediately, then black has to take the key point. This is very important because you've already invested in this group. So this is a critical point for liberties of all the stones. Probably white has to respond, and then you can just jump. And you're always aiming at the cut. And it's very annoying, this shape. So white playing here is understandable, but it does get sealed in. I was wondering about this, but maybe this is too much. Because black can live, and then even just as simple as turning and playing like this, and the corner's dead. So I guess it doesn't really work. So you should honey. Yeah, and if you just descend, then that gets laddered, and that's disaster. So now if I ladder, you can cut, I suppose. I don't like the next move. But maybe it's difficult for white to do anything locally. I'm not sure white should actually be fighting here. Maybe just play once and then play on the left. Because even moves like this seem to be forcing on the corner. I'm not completely sure if they are. But there's the monkey jump. It doesn't look alive. So the right side should be stronger than it looks. So I think the key is to just deal with this area, especially as you have a strong white group now, so you really want to eye the weakness in black's shape. For the time being, even though black has something on the right side, white can probably push here a few times. There's still plenty of space. That's my thinking. So if white comes out here, and I just play like this, then I think white's shape is kind of okay. However, I think I can get away with playing here. Like, if you just capture, then you get laddered. And even if you don't get laddered, it's already terrible. If you play like this, then I've gained a lot on the right side. You can push a few times and then cut. Maybe it's not that good for me after all. Yeah, it's not clear. It's fairly good because I got a nice shape on both sides. Anyway, extending, I don't really think this is good shape, just to give me this, because sooner or later you still have to pull the stone out. And then I'm not sure that extending is the best shape, but I guess there's probably no other choice. I was a bit anxious about this move. I think I might have messed up a little bit here. I mean, the proper shape would be to connect like this. And I suppose the point is that if you can't push through, then the corner's almost dead, so it's probably not good for white. But it's still something I have to be very careful about. White playing here, I mean, it's sort of helping me connect, so I don't think it's the shape point. But admittedly, if you play here, then Yeah, actually, why don't you play here? I guess I have to defend the shape like this, but there's still a cutting point. So I think that's not right. No, maybe I have no choice. So what is going on here? Yeah, black's shape is very bad like this. I suppose the correct move is probably just to defend like this. So, in which case then this move is badly placed because then white should play here. So I think just this black shape locally is fairly resilient. Maybe you shouldn't be playing another move here. Maybe you should continue with the fight somehow. Okay. I'm not sure about this move. I think the proper move is just to defend, except that my shape is bad. And then continue as normal. I guess the problem is that I still have a cutting point. But in any case, what I did in the game, I think I was on the verge of collapse. Doesn't this just capture the stones? Okay, it doesn't actually capture the stones. Okay, white is the one who's dead here. Then what about this one? I think white just needs to extend. It looks very bad for black. I was counting on this sort of move, but white is already live on the left side, so it's not as powerful as it might be. I mean, it is still pretty powerful, so I think black's not behind like this, even though these stones have died. Okay, anyway. Okay, I shouldn't have played here. That's pretty clear. I guess I should have just continued. Yes, you can play here, but then at the least I can, say, jump as a forcing move. And I can still return to this key point. And this exchange, just in general, is very, very bad for white. If you try to hane, then the problem with this is that, yes, you can probably capture something bigger. But then, on this side of the board, there seems to be serious problems now. I mean, it's still, I think it can live, somehow. I mean, just like this it can live, but this is a bit ugly. Okay then. Or maybe just capture these two stones. My reviews always go on a bit too long. Okay, so this was a silly move because this just works. I mean, I thought that I could do this, but then white just jumps and It just doesn't help, does it? If you extend here, then I don't know what happens. The reason I didn't like this was because I still have a weakness here. So I'm still not connected. The way I thought about this move was that at least this stone is connected to this. I really thought I had the ladder here, but it turns out that I didn't. Because white doesn't have to play here, white can play from this side. When you have an extra stone at the end of the ladder, it always helps. Okay, so... I mean, it was an option for white to consider playing for this result. Oops. It's still a fight. Well, because black doesn't even have one eye yet. But I think it's certainly playable for black. Okay, so like this. What the variation I was imagining was this. Something like this. So white just seals everything in, but it's go-to when black jumps here. That's not good. So it might be better just for white to capture these stones. The issue is that the center is in trouble. Extending here is probably forcing. Anyway. I can't play here because white just Atari, so now if you just take the stone, and this stone is way too damaged. If I play like this, then white gets this move in the center, and then I'm not sure if connecting is best, but I just need to look at the script. I don't have many liberties. If you cut, white just needs to defend this cutting point. So if you play like this, then it's a fight, but it's not clear what's really going on. So I played here just to get this, make this Atari forcing, even though it's very ugly. So I guess my thinking is that if this pushes Sente, then I have captured these stones in the ladder. So this move makes sense in order to get a move on both sides. Now if white just defended this cutting point, that's a very, very powerful move. However, do I have something here? And if I play here, then Kasumi seems to work. But then again, maybe it doesn't seem to work. I think this is bad for white. White just doesn't have any liberties. And if you play here, then there's a standard Tsuji. I mean, it's a ko. But I don't think it's early enough in the game that I don't think white doesn't even have one ko threat. Or what's the situation? You can play here as a ko threat. But it's a sort of ko threat that's difficult to take seriously because Okay, maybe you don't play that. You play this one as a code thread. It's difficult to take this seriously because you lose the cutting stones already. So all black has to do is just give up on the ko. And then all of these moves are still forcing, and then black is connected. Black doesn't... Then black can just come back to save this. And this is bad because black can still connect as a forcing move and jump, and then this group's in trouble. This group doesn't have an eye. So I think this is very, very good for black. Okay, so I accept that this is probably the best move. So what I was really expecting here was to give up these stones. And my feeling was that white has maybe gotten something here. Probably white can save this stone and then come back here. I don't think this is that great for black. This is only 6 stones, 12 points. You're going to have to take them off the board as well, and there's still some liberty shortage. Whereas white has gotten so much. This stone is damaged. You managed to save the stone. So my feeling was that this is quite bad for black. So I messed up. The problem with playing here is that now if Atari, you can just jump, and I think this move gets out. Stuff like this. So I have to Atari first. This is a dodgy move. Maybe I should still play her. But it's still the same sort of sequence. I think my move in the game was a bad move once again. Basically, if I play here, then why has to play here? I've basically, in the game, I've just made this bad exchange. I've lost a liberty, which is very critical when you only have 3 liberties. The variation I was going for was this one. And then if you play here, then I'm not sure I can do anything. But anyway. These moves look natural. I mean, if you move it like this, then it's understandable that you wouldn't want to play like this, but it may be the only way to save your stones. Okay, maybe black can get away with shortened liberties. There's only 3 liberties, and black already has 3 liberties. Okay, so the problem with this one is that in order to get out, you have to sacrifice a lot. You have to sacrifice these 2 stones. Play like this. I think I still have to play here. And then you can do the same thing. I mean, this is already better than the game. I don't think I can capture these stones anymore, which means that all my stones are dead. All I could do is just try to pull these stones up. It's still very complicated. In the game, hajimete kudasai. I mean, this is just very powerful, actually. I didn't expect it to be able to kill so easily. If you play like this, then white simply doesn't have enough liberties, so it's just game over. But so you have to make better shape. I mean, I don't think I have much better than this. This is pretty much all I have. But if it goes like this, then I also win the capturing race, because this does, I think, an extra liberty. So maybe there was nothing white could do. Obviously you can't play here because that gets wedged. So if that's the only move, then there's nothing you can do. Like if it's like this, then maybe there's a chance for white. Though I still think I might be able to get another liberty here. Although maybe not. Okay, like this, white wins. But even if white wins, I think it's still good for black, right? But like this, white is just dead, so it's not good. So the question is, what happens if white plays here? I was worried about this because these two stones don't have enough liberties. There's only 3 liberties, whereas white has 4 liberties. If you play like this, then I think white still can't get more than 3 liberties. No, this is a good move. But although it's a good move, it doesn't work because white can play here first. Then the problem is that black has a ko, or white has a ko. Okay, so it's very important which order you play in. The problem is that black can play here, and again I have enough liberties to win the capturing race. Okay, that doesn't work. That means I have to play here. Anyway. But after this, it's just game over. It's like all of these white moves are useless. They only gain 1 point. And that's the problem with when you play too close to the side of the board. They just don't have enough impact on the rest of the board. So in this case, it meant that white lost the fight. By the way, this is still a very good result, even if I sacrifice these stones. So like this, these 3 stones are dead, but it's not really so bad because I can still live. And I wouldn't even try to live here, I would just kill these 7 stones. So something like this. Actually, I think I can get away with playing the Vampy joint here. It's very difficult for these stones to live. And even if they do live, I can still live on this side. White will just try to kill this 3/3 stone. But if I get this entire area, then it's okay to sacrifice these 3 stones. Because the entire right side is pretty much already mine. Okay, so that was that. Let's see if I can get another game. Okay, 2-stone game. I know that many players like to play the 3-4 as to start in the 2-stone game because it gets complicated. Even though the AI will tell you that if you're not being aggressive, then playing 4-4 is still correct. You should just try to invade. You use the 4-4 to allow you to invade your opponent's areas more easily. So So I've still tried to play in a balanced way. So you really need to watch out for the center. So generally you can give up a point or two as white on the sides in order to reduce black's influence in the center. So this Joseki, you could play it in an even game, even though the AI prefers the sharper variation with the low approach. But this is still good. If I recall, white can invade here as a good move. Black will, if black plays first, black can play around here. If I recall correctly, the proper move is to play the 3-3 point. So you can play this now because the upper side is low, you still have reducing moves, and this 4-4 is well placed to reduce as well. Especially as black has just played another low move. So even though it's scary to give your opponent influence, even more influence in a handicap game, it's okay. And this is certainly unusual to play the Hane. Double Hane, okay. Maybe it's not that unusual in this position. I mean, after all, I kept saying the upside is low. So because I think the upside is unimportant, I don't want to add another move there, because even if I add another move, I don't have a follow-up. Okay, so I could just play to reduce the right side. That seems very natural. I could play to invade. If I push up, I don't really see what I'm trying to build there, but there's some interesting ladder breakers. So if I play here, then I expect black to approach, after which I kind of have to pincer. And that kind of naturally reduces the right side, so maybe that is what I should be doing. But if I play here, I'm not sure if I really want to pincer, because I'm starting a fight where black already has some stones. I know that's just a matter of preference. There's no need to think too long about it. Black playing around here is probably the solid way to deal with this corner. Then black will... Okay. I mean, I would play here, but then I'm a bit scared about black playing the shoulder hip. I don't know if there's some way I can invade here. I mean, it looks a little bit insulting because you've just defended, but the thing is, it's a matter of where you've defended, so you've still left some agi here. This is the move, right? You don't. It would be too small to invade the 3-3. I think. I mean, if I play here, then you play like that, then I still have driving to CG to get up, so I think it's okay. I think invading 3-3 is also okay, because black's shape is a little bit inefficient. But the problem is maybe that... What? The problem is maybe that there'll be a cut on the outside. Okay, so... This is proper, but the follow-up of peeping isn't very good shape, so I think that white can Tanuki. It's tempting to try to play some silly move around here, but black is very solid here, so you have to respect that. Black maybe even has this end in center, so white has to respect it. Okay, so the feeling is to just defend this area solidly. Or wedge? No, there's no point. I call this a solid defense, but it's not the most solid defense. You could play the small knights move or large knights move. That's a low stone and it's vulnerable. So I think pushing is natural. It sets up the invasion. The normal idea would be to push several times, I think. And then to attach here. My only worry is that if I attach it might not be forcing. I'm not already scared of black pane because this white structure is so strong here. This stone is fairly far away. It would be my dream to start a fight. The question is how many times I can get away with pushing. I think I might even be able to get away with pushing again because I still can shoulder hit. No. So even though I don't really want to play here because black could just jump and then this group is weak, I can still get a lot of points in the center. Okay, the question is, do I dare to wedge? And I think the answer is no, I don't dare to wedge. Yeah, I think the wedge just gets captured, so I will just extend. I'm not sure if these moves are really the best moves for me, but I'm pretty sure that this isn't a good shape for black. Okay, so although the push and cut doesn't work, you can push and then there's this peep. So if I attach here first, then nothing happens. The problem is that I can play here. I mean, it looks troublesome, because if I cut this, then these 4 stones become vulnerable. And if black just pulls back, then I can also pull back. And now I've mostly gotten rid of this invasion point. I'll still need to add another move, but it's mostly gone. First black will need to defend this, and then I'll find some way to defend this invasion. I still wonder if there's some problems here, but I don't see it. This looks like the proper way to defend the invasion point, because it sets up the push here. Though I have to wonder if it's being a bit too aggressive, because I still have this sort of move. The reason I don't like this jump is because black has this Kasumi. And there's still some problems in the corner. And if I play here, then black can sort of play here, and then there's still problems in the corner. If I don't do anything, then black can just play here and then live in the corner, so I need to defend this, given that I've invested in it. Okay, just play solidly. I think solid is a good connection, since I have this extra stone on the second line and an extra liberty, and that means that this connection is rather more secure than usual, so I can get away with playing 2 spaces away, so the corner is more important. Okay, I can only say that this looks like it's very dodgy shape. Now that I look at it, white isn't actually alive. Okay. White isn't alive, but I had to make this exchange first before cutting, otherwise black can extend. Feeling is that black has too many cutting points. I haven't read out the exact variation yet. But I have managed to read that I can capture these 3 stones. The problem is that I damaged this very heavily, so is it worth it? For example, I could just Atari from this side, after which what happens? I could just Atari from this side, and then what would happen is that I sacrifice the group. Okay, it's decision time. Do I really want to save this group or not? If I don't want to save it, then I should Atari first. You know, regardless, I should Atari, because black will just be able to capture this stone. Yep, I should Atari, because that makes a difference to the liberties in the center. If I just play here, then... And if I wanted to sacrifice, I could even consider just connecting and then running out with this stone. That doesn't look great. I think the best thing to do is just live. Because after living, black has so many cutting points. I mean, there's this peep, there's this run out, this run out. So even though this group gets so badly damaged, I think it's still worth it to live. So if I could push, then I would push. And then maybe connect here even. But I can't, because as soon as black plays here, I run out of liberties. Because it's like a honey at the head of 2 stones. Honey at the head of 3 stones. As soon as your opponent gets to that point, you need to be very careful. So I'm first reinforcing it, so it's no longer a honey at the head of 3 stones. I have an extra liberty on the side, and black has less liberties. So there isn't that much. Really? I mean, black could have turned here in center, so it's very tempting to just crawl. I know it's on the second line, but it's very, very tempting. Thing is, this also sets up the connection. Now, if black honeys, I think I can connect, so I don't need to worry. So I can run out with this stone later, if I have a stone around here. All my stones are connected, so it's time to just play to reduce my opponent's influence. This is, even though it has a lot of counter points, it is a very strong wall. It's, 11 lines up. So if black gets another move, it's still very powerful. I probably don't need to bother making the next 2 space. I think this area is getting it valuable. And also, even just adding another move around here is also very valuable. Another benefit of the crawl is that I don't have to fill these 3 moves as liberties. I can... Can I descend here? I think I can just descend, right? So I even managed to gain these points, which is another at least 2 points. And I don't have to spend 2 moves inside here, so that's another many points. Okay, so I mean I could just connect, because if black plays here then it's powerful. But I could also be much more aggressive. Given that all my stones are connected, I can really try to go on the attack here. For example, if I play here and white connects, black cuts, then I can jump. And the shape is okay. My fear is that if I just play here, then black will just get this 2 space extension and sacrifice this stone. I have to admit that after the jump, my shape is not good. And I now notice that black can actually attach if I play here. And my cut is quite a serious problem. Okay, given all of that, I think it may just be more sensible to play the solid move. Once again, the left side is connected, so I can afford to just take territory. And this also significantly helps against the agi of this stone. One thing to watch out is that this stone still has a lot of agi, so it's not as if it has lost that many points, because, you know, shortening the liberties of this white group is very valuable. Descending is quite big here in combination with this move. However, I think extending is still valuable because I have a follow-up around here with the shoulder. Okay, so if I block, then black will just go up, and then I will have to fill all of these moves. Therefore, I will just connect. And I don't think black can cut me off here. I mean, black can, but then these stones die, so that's not a good idea. I agree that this is a very, very big endgame, but I think I didn't have a good move to defend that anyway, because if I descend, then black is done. Can you really push again? What is going on here? Blocking is quite big because I have the honey. You certainly can't cut. But I'm just worried that you extend. The thing is, I don't really want to use this forcing move. I want to use the forcing move here. Okay, so I think that's good logic. Normally I would honey, but that's Atari. But I think that in this particular position I can wait to use another better forcing move, like such as this shape point. If you want to cut these two stones, I can just sacrifice. If you don't, then I can still honey and double honey. So I think black needs to add another move, probably extending. Okay. I think black needs to save the stone up because otherwise I can consume you. Maybe. Yeah, I think that's not good logic. Okay, this time when I honey, it's more of a problem because I can Atari, 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 and the center gets too big. Okay, so okay, this doesn't work. So do I extend or? It seems to be correct. The shape point would be to make the tiger mouth. So I guess that is what I will do. I was thinking that you can push, but I think that there's no point to do that. Okay, so my instinct is that this stone should just be dead. Just need to work out how to kill it. If I just block, then there's still ways. I mean, it's very tempting to try to kill on a large scale, but by this sort of move. but I'm just anxious that it doesn't actually work. And if it doesn't work, then it's problematic. So I think I should respect the fact that black has a very solid group here. So it's even it's submissively responded to all these moves. Okay, so I can connect in Zento. Now that I think about it, connection is not 100% Zento. Thing is, if I just go to capture this stone, then black can get profit as well. So let's just do a point count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 28 points there. I tend to count in twos because in Go a dead stone is worth 2 points. So it's quite natural. 28 points. If I assume that black gets this endgame, because there's still some bad agi here. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-ish points. So that's the 34. Adding those together comes to 72. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish. That's 14 points. So that's a total of 86 points. Really, that is a lot of points. How am I doing this game? Maybe I'm not doing that well then. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12, 13. If I count it to a maximum, then that comes to 46 points. Then this is another 40 points, assuming that I captured this stone, and don't capture this stone. So that would imply that black is still ahead, interestingly enough. So black is doing quite well. Anyway, this is such a good shape point that I think I should play it. My follow-up is probably to jump. This is forcing, and then I can jump here. Otherwise this group dies. Hmm? Hmm? Really? What's going on here? I can't yet play here because of the Tari. Doesn't look good. But I feel like black suddenly just lost the game. Just now. Black was doing fairly well. I mean, although these moves were submissive, they probably only lost around 10 points. This was very, very questionable, but it would be okay if Black could save the centre. And it was still quite big itself. It's true. I mean, I didn't actually count any centre potential for white here, so maybe I did undercount a little bit. But I did also appreciate that this black group is quite strong. Okay. I have to respond, so it's just a question of where I respond. Just take. Taking saves me 1 point, 2 points inside here, so that's very big, as well as reducing black fly space. So when you have such a solid shape, you can play aggressively in order to use it. I don't know, it's tempting to try to kill this group. I think realistically it's difficult to kill, because black makes a tiger mouth in the center. So the question is, do I bump? Or do I play here? If I play here, then black's group can only play the Kasumi to live. If I play here, black can block and play here to live. Actually, the Kasumi doesn't even work because of the double beat. But if I play here, then white can't get out. But if I play here, then white can get out. If I play here, I'm slightly worried that white will play something fancy. I think I shouldn't really be worried though. My feeling is that this is the best endgame. I mean, I did count this as 6 or 7 points, and now it's only 5 points. And I counted black as having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points around here as well. Now black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. But the problem is I have gained an extra 4, 5 points, and I've gained the maybe 4 points on the lower side, and I've also managed to seal off the center. I think if black jumps, then I can just cover on top. And in total, that means all I need to do is separate this group from this group in order to get the most profit. In fact, even if black jumps, I still have a ko with this move. But if you look on the whole board, I don't have any ko threats, whereas black still has some ko threats. It's true that my shape had a weakness here, but it pretty much only had. It only takes me 2 moves to connect, so it's not such a big worry. I'm very skeptical that that can make an iron here. Black's best chance is probably to extend here and then try to make a capture ace with these stones. For the time being, I don't think it works. However, after this move, I think I should be a little bit worried about the problems. Though, to be honest, I still don't see it working. It looks to me like it doesn't actually work. So I'll just get rid of this eye. So at the moment black has 0 eyes. And then black is threatening to jump now. So Hane is the most efficient way to defend against that. But at this point I definitely need to defend. So this cut is forcing. I kind of have to defend somehow. But after that, I could even defend from the center, I think. Shape isn't nice, but I think it works. Okay, then now I do need to defend this. Defending this means I get this endgame, and black's potential for a ko here is slightly reduced. So right now black is threatening to push and cut, after which these stones, the cut is sente, so then these stones will be in danger. I think the most efficient move to defend against it is to descend. Remembering that black doesn't even have 1 eye here, there's no real way to make 2 eyes in this space. Even making 1 eye would be very difficult. I think 1 eye is possible, but that's all. Okay, that's not forcing. But it does mean that this area is blocked in, so if black does add on another move, I need to be worried. To be honest, I think I didn't actually have to play that move. If there's no eye here, then it's still not really a problem. So remembering that these groups are the weakest groups on the board, of my groups, and it's very important for me to link up my stones. I was a bit more confident here because there were some problems in black's position. Okay, now this white group is completely connected all the way to this, so all I need to do is to defend this group. And there's no way for white to make an eye inside here. If white had 2 moves, even then I think white can't make another eye. So the safest thing would be to take out this eye, because black already has 1 eye here, so I need to take out the other eye. I just need to make sure that if black plays here, I need to remember to play her. If black has any other move in this area, then I need to add another move as well. Okay, now which do you think is bigger, the monkey jump or the descent? There's also a wedge here, but I think that it doesn't actually have a threat. So the monkey jump is the normal shape. And the next biggest move is probably to descend. I mean, this is pretty big, now that there's some problems in white's safety. I do need to be careful here. Right, so the safest thing would probably be to respond like the connection. But I don't think there's any real chance for black to make another eye here. I just need to respond a little bit conservatively, so if black wedges, I think I'll just back off. The follow-up here is to jump. Okay, so Hane leaves a lot of co-threads. So I think connection is the correct response, even though I think Hane works as well. Though to be honest, if black just pulls back, there are also a lot of co-threads. So right now the problem is that black has this weakness, and then when black defends that weakness, I can take away the eye. I could have done better with this move, couldn't I? I could have played this descend, and there's no way for black to make. No, then. No, yeah, I think I did have to play this move. My feeling is that this is not forcing. I can just capture. This is forcing because this group isn't alive. Then jump should be the biggest end game. The problem is that black playing here is forcing, so there's a ko here, so I can't actually invade any further. The most I can do is just connect. So the question is, do I connect, or do I Hane, or do I play here? Now this one, honestly this move is very big. one is 3 points in Sente, reverse Sente, so let's call that 6 points. I think I remember this one is 6 points. This one, there's more than that. If I assume black plays here and then throw in, then I get 1 point here, but black has gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. So that is very serious. And it's quite important to play here because this side is already solid, so there's no point pushing him from that side. But if black has another move here, then that's almost an eye. Now that I look at this, it's very difficult for black to make another eye, even if black plays the next move. Whereas this move is worth a lot of points. Okay, the next move I don't think is worth 6 points. Wait, this is double Sante. Wait, so this is much more than 6 points then. There's not an eye here. I don't know if there's an eye here. I don't think so. Black can attach. Honey. I regret.